What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Weekend Review. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub. And on this week's show, USFL rules were announced last week. We talk about them and the XFL rules. Johnny Football, I know some of you people hate that name. You all freak out about it. Some of you people love it, but Johnny Manziel returns to Fan Control Football and so much more. So remember to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel. All right, how do we get started? Well, first, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record an MP3 or video, or leave it on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show. Or leave us a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We're on Stitcher, Audible, Player FM, Amazon, Spotify, Google Podcasts. But leave us those reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Really helps spread the word about the show. And we are live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday at XFL Weekend Review. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the Twitches as well. We are 326 days from XFL Kickoff, and it's been very, very light in the news the last 2 weeks. We have supposedly June 18th of this year, 2022, XFL Player Combine begins. We did hear Danny Garcia and The Rock talk about January 9th, 2023 as the start of XFL training camp, so clearly that part of the puzzle is solved, that's going to happen. But and February 18th, 2023, the XFL season begins. That is the plan there. So we appreciate everybody being coming on the show, on the chat, et cetera, et cetera. Remember, if you like football, then like and subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button. Let's try to get to 50 likes for this show, because that spreads the word about the show, and then it spreads the word about the XFL. There's the XFL, the USFL, the CFL, Fan Control Football. There's other things aside from the National Football League, which has had its super fair shake of news and drama going on over the last couple of weeks for the NFL. Should be great ratings when the NFL kicks off. Definitely a lot of people have been talking about what's going on with the NFL. A lot of people this today was talking about the little slap thing that happened on the Oscars last night. Didn't watch the Oscars, saw it on the news the next day. I just want, as a Christian dude, and I am prideful, and I'm not afraid to admit that I'm a Christian guy, was down a dark path and kind of saw the light, came to Jesus, born again, and I'm very excited about that part of my life. It gives me a lot of hope and energy and stuff. Such been such a positive thing in my life. The thing that stuck out to me, and I just wanted to get to this part, just because it's such a huge thing everybody's talking about. So Denzel Washington was somebody who had talked to Will Smith after the little slap thing happened. And he said to him, and this is a quote that Will Smith said later on, "In your highest moments, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you." Now, Denzel Washington, I know, is a Christian dude, and that is, to me, that was the most poignant thing of that whole story, is that quote from Denzel Washington, because what happened an hour later was Will Smith won for Best Oscar, or, won for Best Actor. And, clearly the dark one is out there. And it was so true that he said those words. I just felt like, everybody's talking about it over the water cooler, all this kind of, even everybody works from home now. So, seeing this all over social media, it's been a topic with my kids as well. Kind of, did you see what happened? Oh, yeah, it's been all over TikTok. It's been over social media. But in my household, we talked about Denzel Washington's quote about, the dark one out there, and just at your highest moment. So it's something to keep in mind, my friends, in that whole discussion. You guys know I'm not afraid to admit that, I'm a Christian, and is not, as it's portrayed by some, as like some militant whatever. But I just wanted to kind of throw that one out there for you. But on this, anyway, just because that was a topic going around in the world. Always praying for Ukraine also, as everything is going on there every day. Anyway, on this week's show, USFL rules versus the XFL rules. So the USFL put out their rules. Kind of looks similar to something that we might have seen before. Little tweaks to it. We'll get takes on that. We got a whole full thing about Johnny Manziel returning to Fan Control Football, which is good for that league. We had Ray Austin on, the commissioner of Fan Control Football, which I've heard from you guys definitely kind of pivoted your point of view. Hearing him talk about fan control football makes me super excited. What a crazy weekend I'll be on. Oh, I shouldn't say anything, but, with the crazy weekend going on in April for the USFL kicking off, the fan control football also kicks off that night as well. So a lot of stuff going on with those two leagues leading up to that. And we'll keep you all up to date on that because they are kicking off. They're in training camp right now. It's very strange seeing pictures of Jordan Tamu slinging it around there for my Tampa Bay Bandits. And so if you're an XFL fan, you definitely should check out the league because of the rules you'll kind of see, and we'll get into that in a second, and the players. Lots of former XFL players and coaches in that league as well. The question is, always with the USFL, and its criticism that it gets, it's not as the big hoopla that the XFL had when it came out in the 2.0 era, and the XFL 3.0 era, I am sure is going to have much more hoopla. But the USFL has tried to play it low-key this whole time. They're not trying to come out the gates like crazy season tickets. They're trying to play it low-key. So their criticism, the criticism that the league gets, is a reflection of their business model. They have the money. They could have done what the XFL and these other and has done, the AAF did, but they're trying to keep that cost low in that incubator stage. So I would just suggest just giving it a chance. And speaking of giving it a chance, at 9 o'clock, check out the USFL Weekend Review podcast with your host, me. So you got the 8 o'clock XFL, 9 o'clock USFL, and starting next week, right? Yes, April 6th, we're going to bring back CFL Weekend Review at 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. So we're going to have 3 shows for all 3 websites, USFL, XFL, Monday nights, CFL on Sunday or on Wednesday at 8 p.m. just to get you ready for the draft that's going to happen in May. And that's kind of the plan there. So that's the things that are coming around our neck of the woods. Plus, News Hub Fantasy. If you're interested in playing fantasy football for the USFL, go to News Hub Fantasy. The draft engine is complete. We will be having drafts probably in the next 2 days. We'll see how that goes. But I talk all about that kind of stuff on the USFL podcast on at 9 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, and anywhere you get this podcast, you can get that one as well. So without further ado, folks, my friends, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. There's not much. First up, the USFL dropped their rules last week as players started coming into camp. And we had our own Andrew Murray, taking a look at the differences between the USFL rulebook and the XFL rulebook. And the thing is that there is a lot of similarities. Now, when Brian Woods talked about that their USFL would be about 98% identical to the NFL rulebook, we did get some glances of some things that may not be a carbon copy of the NFL, but actually XFL 2020 rulebook stuff, part of the 2.0 era, which was developed by its creator, Sam Schwartzstein. If imitation is indeed sincerest form of flattery, then the USFL is handing Schwartzstein their biggest compliment. So here we go. The XFL was able to separate itself from other leagues, emphasizing innovation in play mechanics, officiating, technology, player safety. The USFL seeks to combine the best of what they worked for their predecessors and combine those elements into one cohesive model of pigskin legislation. The time has come to compare the USFL rulebook to the XFL and others. So one of the consistent themes in the XFL was the de-emphasis on kicking as a critical function during plays. The extra point system was emblematic of this, as teams were no longer permitted to kick extra points. Instead, and if you remember this, definitely the Houston Roughnecks used to do this a lot, upon a scoring touchdown, squads could elect to either go for a 1-point, 2-point, or from the 5-yard line, or a 3-point conversion from the 10-yard line. A lot of teams were doing the 2-point. Then they started realizing that maybe they should just go for 3 on the 10-yard line, give them a little bit more space. This allowed teams to not have more scoring options, but also the teams potentially tie a game if they were down by 9 points. The USFL has adopted this format in a similar manner, but also created a fusion between the XFL system and the NFL's version. So in the USFL, teams can choose to go for an extra point attempt from the 15-yard line, like the NFL, a 2-point attempt from the 2-yard line, NFL and XFL, and a 3-point attempt from the 10-yard line, like the XFL. So this presents coaches with an opportunity to either stick with traditional methods or roll the dice if they feel strong enough about their offensive potential. So that's something to keep in mind about what the USFL is doing. And this is all on usflnewshub.com. For the instant replay, the XFL eliminated coaches' challenges, instead implemented a replay system where replay officials could review questionable rulings and legislate the game. Obvious errors in regards to player safety would be subject to review in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter or during overtime. Officials were permitted to correct egregious errors that significantly impacted the outcome of the match. Remember the Seattle game where he didn't kneel and he should have kneeled and they called the game off. That was kind of but the XFL apologized and we moved on. So the USFL will run all of its replays out of its command center in Los Angeles, where all decisions will be made by one replay crew. I would assume it would be Mike Pereira, but he'd probably leave that to somebody else. Coaches will be granted one challenge to use. The command center will have the authority to overrule any incorrect personal foul calls and determine the accuracy of pass interference calls, something that is kind of definitely annoying when it comes into the NFL. This system is more comparable to the NFL's replay structure than the XFL's. The kickoff part, this was kind of, I was reading this and I was like, this is like the XFL's or it's not like I don't know. So the kickoffs are arguably the most unique aspect of the XFL rule set. And I believe that the NFL will be doing the XFL kickoff, not this year, maybe in 2025, if the XFL plays in 2023, they test it around, then maybe they try it in preseason in 2024 to implement in 2025. It will take a while for this, but I have a big suspicion that the NFL will be using the XFL's kickoff by 2025, if everything goes according to plan. So the complexity of the XFL kickoffs requires details to be laid out in their entirety. So here's an excerpt from the XFL's website. Kicker kicks from the 30-yard line. Ball must be in the air and in play between the opponent's 20-yard line and the end zone. Coverage teams line up and return on the 35-yard line. Out-of-bounds kicks, blah, blah, blah. Players can move when the ball is touched by the returner or 3 seconds after the ball touches the ground. If the ball is kicked to the end zone or it's down, it has a major touchback and the ball is placed at the 35-yard line. They don't want touchbacks. If the ball bounces inbounds and then out of the end zone and is down in the end zone, the ball is placed at the 15. The player can, on the return team, touches the ball and it goes out of bounds, blah, blah, blah. The USFL kickoff is nowhere near as complex and instead goes for the NFL's model, but moving the kickoff to the 25-yard line of the kicking team. This was presumably created to prevent kickers from booting the ball into the end zone for a touchback. The receiving team must have a minimum of 8 players in the zone between their 35 and 45-yard line. After the ball travels 20 yards through the air, only the receiving team may touch the ball. So that kind of gives you an idea. It's not like the XFL ones, but it is definitely modified. Now, the XFL made adjustments in the final 2 minutes in each half of the games during the time plays that end, and the field of play resulted in the game clock being stopped until the ball was spotted and 5 seconds had run off the clock. Remember, the XFL had a ball spotter, and their job was to just spot the ball, and that was their job. Pick up the ball, put the ball where it's supposed to be. That was their only job, something that the NFL doesn't do. Incomplete passes and out-of-bound plays meant the game clock was stopped completely until the ball was snapped. In the USFL, the clock will only stop on first downs inside the last 2 minutes of each half. Each league is attempting to make the final moments of both halves more compelling, with extra opportunities being granted on both granted to the offenses. And this is something that the CFL, the CFL is and I'm going to get all into that next when we start bringing back CFL Week in Review. But the CFL, talking about switching 3 downs, there's many tweaks that you can do in the game of play before you go into something as drastic as going from 3 downs to 4 downs, which they shouldn't do in the CFL. The XFL modeled its onside kick after the NFL format by doing a traditional attempt from the team's own 35-yard line like the NFL. The balls also had to travel at least 10 yards before being recovered. Onside kicks had to be announced beforehand to the officials, so surprise onsides were not an option. The USFL has decided to create a more dynamic options by granting squads 2 distinct choices Teams may either kick from their own 25-yard line in a traditional attempt or elect for a 4th and 12 play from their own 33-yard line. This is an option borrowed from the AAF rulebook and allows for the choice of either a special teams or offensive conversion. I bet you they're going to go offensive conversion. This is something that the XFL did not have at all. And finally, we got a couple more overtime rules. This is where a direct line can be drawn between the XFL and the USFL in regards to the rules usage. The overtime system in the XFL was a shootout format, which we really wanted to see, which I think would have been awesome, where each team had 5 chances to convert as many 2-point plays as possible. In the event that both teams were tied after 5 attempts, they would go to sudden death conversion process. This is the same system in the USFL, but this time with just 3 chances. Another nod given to our man Sam Schwartzstein's vision from the XFL. So they're going from 5 attempts to 3 in the USFL. Punts, something a lot of things the XFL was playing around with. And the XFL gunners had to line up at the line of scrimmage and were not permitted to move laterally until the ball was kicked. The XFL rules mostly discouraged teams from punting on a certain part of the field. If the ball was punted out of bounds inside the 35-yard line, it went to the opponent's end zone or out of the end zone. It would be awarded to the receiving team at the 35-yard line. The USFL, meanwhile, makes a slight tweak by restricting gunners from lining up outside of the numbers or being double-teamed until the ball is kicked. So a slightly different thing, but nobody is adopting the CFL halo rule when it comes to punts. I remember the XFL talking about, specifically Sam Schwartzstein talking about how they tried that rule in the Spring League. And remember, the Spring League people, Brian Woods and Moose Johnson, was part of the XFL. These guys were around during that time period, and they tried to get the players to do the halo rule. And I remember them saying that they just could not get the players to do that, even though when they go to the CFL, they can do that. But I guess that's because they're seeing other players do it, and they just couldn't. In the U.S., they couldn't get that rule going. And the CFL has a much better special teams interest than the NFL does, that's for sure. Penalties, the most significant penalty applications in the XFL had already been mentioned with the kickoffs and punts. The USFL's primary penalty alter comes with pass interference. Defensive pass interference can still be at the spot of the foul, but only up to 15 yards. This is more reminiscent of the NCAA's DPI rule. Conversely, offensive pass interference and illegal man downfield cannot be assessed if a pass does not cross the line of scrimmage. This is meant to cut down on punishments for the offense unrelated to what has occurred during the play. We've heard Mike Pereira talk about this penalty in particular. Double forward pass, something that was kind of happened, didn't happen in the XFL. Not to sound like a broke rib, but once again, the USFL has adopted an innovation from the XFL. The ability for offense to attempt 2 forward passes behind the line of scrimmage was a hallmark of the XFL attempt to differentiate itself from other leagues. Apparently, the USFL agreed with that, and they're doing that as well. So clearly, the USFL is attempting to balance the innovation of the XFL bold rule books with the NFL's tried and true traditions. The execution of the rule book will be in full display April 16th in Birmingham. So we will get to see all these plays play out. Also, be on the lookout because you know who else is watching. The XFL will be watching these games and seeing how these rules play out.
Giving some instruction to Berkeley Edwards, and then taking himself.
Has
daylight to the end zone. Manziel can walk it in. Touchdown, Zappers.
I want to get hit.
Another day at the office, baby.
Has daylight to the end zone. Manziel can walk it in. Quick throw up top to the end zone. Caught for touchdown. Johnny Football back in business.
Johnny's back with fan-controlled football season version 2.0.
No win or lose, we booze.
Go to FCF.io and get in the game.
All right, big news from Fan Control Football. Johnny Manziel is returning for the 2.0 season at their Pullman Yards brand new high-tech studio in Atlanta, Georgia. So tickets are on sale now. So Fan Control Football, of course, we know is the only league that empowers the fans. You can pick your favorite team, call plays at real time. All these things I did not do. Our man Josh Davis, God rest his soul, and say some prayers for his family. We miss him dearly still. He was our Fan Control Football guy. We have some guys that are going to cover it this year for XFL News Hub. I am definitely going to watch it this year. As you guys know, I've already gotten my Team Aoki, that stuff. So now their upcoming season will now have Johnny Manziel, the former 22nd overall pick of the Cleveland Browns. So much interesting Cleveland Browns news this past week. So he has returned to fan control football. So FCF made his debut February 2021, featuring 4 teams: Marshawn Lynch, Austin Eckler, Richard Sherman, Dalvin Cook, to name a few. Now that was season 1, that had very good success on Twitch. Now they're going to be on NBC, Peacock, that you can watch the game. So now 2.0, you can register at there's the Glacier Boys, the Beasts, the Zappas, should have been Stars, SB Stars. They were formerly the Wild Aces. They had Drewski has come on board, ASM. Now fans also can be part of the Ballers Collective. That is me, with the NFTs, Kingpins, Board Ape FC, Knights of Deegan, and Team 8 Oki. That's me. So now they will have games at the historic Pratt Pullman Yards, located just east of downtown Atlanta. For the first time ever, because remember, what was happening, fans will be able to experience fan control football games in person with unique game day fan experience passes, single game, group sessions, all kinds of stuff. And we have, of course, the full schedule of all the fan control football games and game day packages. That also came out this past week. So you can now go, if you live in the Atlanta area, they have all kinds of game experiences that you can pay for, some on the smaller end, some on the larger skin. Of course, it will kick off April 16th with 4 games featuring the league's 8 teams that has redefined the game day experience. All games are being played in their state-of-the-art production studio in Atlanta's historic Pratt Pullman Yards. Additionally, for the first time ever, fans will be able to experience the thrilling fan control football action in person with unique game day experiences, including leading that fan control football team on the field, calling a play, pre- and post-game locker room access, and more. Really trying to take, this is definitely something the NFL will absolutely be looking at, seeing what these guys are doing to kind of tweak a lot of people should be looking at what these guys are doing. So the Game Day Studios, designed a hub of live entertainment totaling more than 85,000 square feet, will host the league's 7-week regular season, playoff weekend, and the People's Championship too. Fans can find the full season, evening sessions. Fans can level up their game day experience starting with general admission season session pass as low as $20 for taxes and fees. Each level experience offers premium seating with field-level views, plus access to the league's cutting-edge technology, streaming capabilities, remote coaching, real-time play calling. Fans experience are also mixed of reserve seating with unparalleled perks. You can get the luxury suite to the Ultimate Ballers all-inclusive travel package, food and hospitality. The schedule takes place here. We have the schedule right here. Session 1 will be at 1 o'clock. So technically, you can watch the first fan control football games. You got the Glacier Boys versus the Beast and the Knights of Deegan versus Board Apes AFC. That's going to be the first 2 games at 1 o'clock. Session 2 is at 7. The Should Have Been Stars and Zappers and then you got Aoki's versus Kingpin. I'm going to have to somehow flip between the USFL game going on at 7 and the fan control football game going on there. Then week 2, same thing. So you got the session, you've got games, Saturday games at 1, then you have games at 7 o'clock. I know that at least the 1 o'clock games won't interfere on Saturday so much with the USFL games, so you'll be able to check those out. So they have 2 games at 1 and then 2 games at 7. And I guess that's to reset the field, all playing on Saturdays to get get fans into the stands. $20 is general admission game day passes, standing room only. For $49, you can get reserved seating, assigned seats inside the studio audience. $99 VIP fan experience, game day session pass, VIP access to celebrity owner groups and players, pre- and post-game field and locker room access, and playoff and championship priority passes. Cool. If you want to go high baller, 1,750 fan experience game day passes includes 20 single session passes, VIP access, private tour of the venue, pre- and post-game locker playoff championship, and 4 VIP parking passes. Heck, I know Atlanta, been there multiple times. Just getting that VIP parking passes is probably worth that $1,750. I'm just telling you. Parking, and I hate parking. I will pay $1,000 if I had $1,000 just for easier parking. Just ask my wife. I hate parking. I have to know. XFL games, I always prepaid my parking at the building that's across the street from the from Nats Stadium. I would always park in there because I just didn't want to deal with parking, so I prepaid all the time. For 5,000 ballas of the ultimate, you get an official pregame party with all-inclusive premium food, beverages, live entertainment, and so much more. You get 2 hotel rooms for 2 nights at League Hotel, Atlanta Marriott, Buckhead Hotel. That's nice. 4 all-access passes to the owner's suite for both afternoon and evening sessions. Lead the team out on the field and perform the coin flip or rock, paper, scissors. We'll do the coin flip. Pre- and post-game field and access. Merch pack from the team store. Autograph fan control football game ball. I have my fan control football here. That's if you're high-tech baller right there. So located just east of downtown Atlanta, Pullman Yards has become a creative cultural center for filmmakers. 27-acre, 12-building property has produced some of this generation's most memorable films, including Hollywood's Baby Driver, Hunger Games, Catching Fire, Fast and Furious 5, not to mention TV shows, art exhibitions, music videos. Lots of stuff filmed down there. Very cool. And we know about the Ballers Collective. So you got Johnny Manziel, you've got the new state-of-the-art stadium, and then you have games. So if you're a true alt football fan, what you're going to do is it's going to be Saturday. You're going to, at 1 o'clock, you're going to turn on NBC's or Peacock, wherever the games are. We haven't got official times of where you can watch these games, but you can watch them certainly on Twitch. And it's NBCV or something like that. I have it on my Roku. NBC something. 1 o'clock, watching fan control football. 7 o'clock, here comes the USFL. And then maybe have that fan control game on the side. Lots of fun. It's going to be a jam-packed, crazy April 16th here at XFL News Hub. And for all football fans, we have waited a long time to get some football. And now we'll have 2 leagues, fan control football and the USFL, playing on the same night. Should be a lot of fun for us football nerds. So, could Cardell Jones return to the XFL in 2023? I'm just telling you, the vibe that I was getting from people within the XFL at the time was that Cardell was out. Tyree Jackson was going to be the guy for the rest of the season. But hey, the first 2 games were great for Cardell. We thought we were chanting MVP. And then just, of course, we know Sonic came out and he went downhill. But did you know that Sonic 2 was just at the movies with my wife this past weekend? Sonic 2 is around the corner, and she wants to see it as well. Jim Carrey is in it. Come on. As the villain, that's all you need. But could this, forget about that, could it be that Sonic 2 comes out, that Cardell gets another opportunity in the XFL? Because clearly the USFL has no interest in guys. They want the younger guys. So if you followed him, you know a lot about Cardell Jones. Ohio State loved him, helped their team to 3 straight bowl games. Good quarterback. He competed with 2 other well-known OSU quarterbacks for playing time, J.T. Barrett and Braxton Miller. J.T. Barrett now in the CFL, I believe. We'll check that with the chat room. Then they made the move. They were both declared for the draft. Both Miller and Jones were drafted in the NFL draft. He played around with the Buffalo Bills. They had Tyrod Taylor as a starter. Then he got to Bills no longer believed in Manuel with their future. They selected Jones, who thought they could develop him behind Taylor. With Jones and Miller entering the draft, the starting job was handed to J.T. Barrett. OSU would watch as both men were selected on day 2 of the draft. The Bills no longer believed in Manuel as their future. They selected Jones, and the final game of his rookie season, he entered, after a turbulent season that saw Rex Ryan fired midseason. Anthony Lynn finished the season. Lynn liked what he saw in Jones, and when he became their head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers, Lynn got a trade for Jones, but that didn't work out. Never played in a single game, and then was on the practice squad for a little while. Then he landed on Seattle's practice squad, but the XFL was gearing up, and then was announced on October 15th, 2019. Cardell was announced as a member of the DC Defenders. pitting against former Buffalo quarterback Tyree Jackson in a competition for the starting Jones, which Jones won. Though I believe that the reason why he won is because he was the tier 1 guy, but their lead team wanted to go with Tyree, but Tyree didn't look that great. I don't know. But he started off hot, winning his first 2 games, had a big connection between Eli Rogers, who was in the USFL, Rashad Ross, who I do not believe is. Despite this, Jones went on a 4-game stretch, which he threw for 2 interceptions and 2 TDs and 7 interceptions. And watch his yards. I mean, he just looked awful. Despite talking about Pep Hamilton being his coach, and you saw what Hamilton has done, just could not get it going. By the time the XFL folded, Tyree Jackson proved to be more efficient of the 2 quarterbacks. But of course, Tyree is now playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. So the question is, will Cardale Jones come back? Well, recently, his alma mater, Ohio State University, held their pro day. And Jones was not only in attendance to spectate, Jones would end up throwing in the workout to NFL-bound wideouts Garrett Wilson and Chris Alvey. He was said to look crisp and had his best workout during the workout, although these workouts are always hard to gauge, although I would point out that Jones couldn't have picked a better year to work with pro day because Wilson and Alvey are both regarded as first-round picks in the 2022 NFL Draft. Of course, this is a video from Barstool OSU showing Cardale slinging it in this pro day. So the question is, what better way to get yourself on the map than work out in front of a large contingent of NFL and XFL scouts and coaches were there also. Well, I think Jones understands that he is likely a long shot to make it back to the NFL in 2022. It's no secret the XFL is looking for players to add to their 2023 pool, much like back in October of 2019 when Jones was added to DC's vendors roster. The XFL is doing. Hey, my daughter met him. We met him a couple times. A really nice guy. She's got his shirt. Actually, one of my daughters is wearing a Cardale Jones shirt, which you couldn't do like XFL related merch, but it was like something Cardale Jones. She was just wearing it the other day. Nice guy. Love to see him get a second chance. The USFL he was not part of the draft pool. Not really sure what's going on there. So we will have to see. But could Cardale Jones, after a nice little showing at Ohio State University's Pro Day, could he potentially return to the XFL? We'll have to find out. You guys wanted coaching news. Here it is. Major League Football announces their second head coach Terry Shea. So we're halfway through the announcement of the Major League Football. MLFB announces their head coach, Terry Shea. Keeping with the philosophy, of course, the well-known guy. It's hard for me to find pictures of him. He got a quote from Dick Vermeil. It takes 22 legs to score a touchdown, Shea likes to say. Add that to all the coaches and trainers and front office staff. Football is such a complete team game. Dick Vermeil says about Shea. The great thing about Coach Shea is that he focuses on the growth of each individual. Each player gets his attention with the brilliant offensive mind and desire to coach. Shea is a perfect fit for MLFB. What a great find for the league. So he was a Bill Walsh protege. Man, that's talking Bill Walsh proteges. They've basically filtered out of the league by now. He's coached at every level, but he is now part of Major League Football. So he is the second coach announced in the league. Remember, the league only has 4 teams, and we will have to see. I haven't really heard ever since Terry Shea. I haven't heard about any other coaches. We haven't heard any other details about their season, but we will keep you posted, my friends. Or we'll be back with your social media stuff right after this. Stay tuned, my friends.
Big show coming up this week on the Markcast. All of your alt football news, USFL, CFL, fan control football even, on a very decidedly pro USFL podcast. We are a pro USFL podcast this week. Lots of stuff to break down. The USFL has released their rule book. We have players arriving in Birmingham for training camps, and there is more legal opposition against the USFL. They just won't leave the USFL alone. They're just kicking them when they're down. We're going to break down all of that stuff. Lots of intrigue and excitement. Excited to talk about all of that stuff. Big guest list this week. We have friend of the show, your friend and mine, Farhan Lalji, coming on, CFL insider from TSN. We are talking USFL. What effects will that have on the CFL? We are also saving the CFL game. Are we moving to 4 downs? Are we moving to 5 downs? We get all of Farhan's thoughts.
Well, it's part of a process the league is going through right now called product review, right? Ultimately, I think when you have something like a lost season due to COVID, and in some other sports, it might be a lockout, right? I mean, the NHL went through this, Major League Baseball has gone through this, that when you lose seasons or an epic period of time, you want to come out of it slightly different, right? To give fans something else to talk about besides what was lost. And, there's been a 5-year downward trend in scoring in the CFL. And last year, the games just weren't entertaining relative to what we're used to seeing.
And then Andrew Murray from CFL and XFL News Hub is coming on the show. We're breaking down and dissecting all of the United States Football League news this week, the USFL rulebook, the players arriving in Birmingham, the new lawsuit opposition, everything about that.
I'm sure you have seen, Reed, obviously all of these camps and the spring league circles seem to become divided and sort of huddled in their own areas. There's not always a lot of crossover as far as people who are interested in these leagues or want to support these leagues all the time.
And then courtesy of the Montreal Alouettes, we have CFL All-Star running back William Stambeck coming on the show. William is training in Georgia. He is preparing for the season, and we are very excited to have him on.
Me speaking from the offensive side of the ball, I'm with my brothers again. And we ready to ride, we ready to rock. Anybody that's in our way, we just gonna have to stomp all over them.
All right, we're back. What's up, everybody in the chat room? MM says, what's up? Is that like M&M's? David says, Mark, please do a PSA to XFL hardcore fans that just ripped the USFL. Anyone else detect tons of negativity because how Fox has handled the new leg? The lawsuits are enough of a drag. I mean, this is the thing. The expectation of the USFL needs to be tempered because this is not the AAF and XFL. They have said from the beginning, like they are just bringing people on now. They're trying to keep their costs low. They're they're doing it in a hub city. Again, it's half thinking, it's Neanderthal thinking. They're not thinking clearly that clearly the league is trying to do things a little different. 5 years from now, they hope that things will be better and then they'll be in all these different cities. My thing is, you want to criticize them, wait until year 2. That's the key. I think they'll get through year 1. The question is what will happen with year 2 in the USFL, because that's the part where it's like, will the business plan? There's things to be concerned about. That's for sure. I mean, I've always said from the beginning, Fox executives leave and come and go and do something else, and then all of a sudden the league disappears. How committed they are, we've heard from Murdoch's son, that this is kind of their play, but it's a moneymaker thing. And then people are like, oh, I can't believe that they're in this for the money. This is what businesses do. They're in it for the money. Hate to break it to you. So temper your criticisms just yet. Let's see how it plays out. But I'm willing to kind of wait till year 2 and see how things play out then. He says we need to be more positive. More football is a good thing. We don't need XFL fans becoming CFL snobs. He said it, not me. I've dealt with my fair of CFL hate, and I'm coming back better than ever. By the way, you want to talk about haters? We actually have a CFL News Hub app for Android live right now. You can go download it right now. So we have XFL one, we have a CFL one, and there's a USFL one coming soon too. Theodore says, I think the XFL 2.0 rules are slightly better. Hopefully XFL 3.0 has a wider fields and soccer stadiums to make it different from the USFL. I don't know if they'll have wider fields. If I'm the XFL, I'm keeping the rule book. You didn't give it a chance. You need to give it a chance, a full year, a full season to see how that thing is going to play out. I would not make any tweaks to it. Just let's get on the field. That's the tweak that you need to happen. And we are getting, on Fridays, we get like the kind of generic message from the XFL, which is good. They've hired some people. The Final Four is already picked. You can come out stuff, definitely after the Oscars. Definitely you don't want to hold off. You definitely don't want to drop anything news today. People will talk about Duke and North Carolina. That's all great. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you have an opportunity to drop some news. The USFL is doing their thing, and they've been kind of there's really nothing else that they need to do at this point other than that training camp stuff. I don't think they're going to have any kind of big earth-shattering announcement like where they're going to play their championship game or anything, those kind of things. They're just trying to get their game together. Now is the time the XFL to strike, and you could make some big news this week, that's for sure. Dave says, Will Smith, the like button. Oh, geez. Will Smith, the like button. That's good. I'll give that to you. That is pretty funny. Audio sounds a little low. Does my audio sound all right? Greg says, I had a great time at Stallions Kid Day at Legion Field yesterday. Oh, that's awesome, Greg. Congratulations. That looks like fun. We'll be talking about that on the USFL Week in Review podcast, just coming up in about 15 minutes on USFL News Hub on your YouTube and platform of podcasting choice. Isaiah says XFL, hashtag XFL, USFL, FCF, MLFB. Yes. And I think there's been kind of a dead zone with the USFL and the XFL not really going on anything. You got March Madness. You got the Masters coming up. I guess people will care about that. Then I think things are going to hit. I think the 16th is going to be very interesting. Plus, Major League Baseball is coming back not too far after that. USFL is greater than fan control football. I always get confused. Greater than, less than. Even though I'm a software engineer, that part always messes me up in my code. I'm just being honest. All right, we'll take a commercial break. We'll get to your social media stuff, and then we'll wrap it up right after this. Stay tuned. My friends, speaking of apps. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, we did have some Danny Garcia news. CNBC had an article about Danny Garcia managing Dwayne Johnson and building a business empire. Talked a little bit about the XFL. Here's a quote Larry had pulled out. He said, "Don't be afraid of being different. Be afraid of being the same as everyone else." Danny Garcia, and I've said this before about her. This is why I'm team $7. Have you been watching Young Rock, by the way? I have been watching Young Rock. I totally enjoy the show just because I'm a fan of his, and his story is even more interesting. Of course, if you're a wrestling fan, then you're interested in that too. And now that they bring the CFL aspect to it and Danny Garcia aspect to it, this makes it really interesting. But this is very personal, in my opinion, to her. And that's why I think this thing is going to succeed, because of Danny Garcia and The Rock. If it was any other people, I'd be like, meh, I don't know. But those two, I'm like, yep. Yeah, I feel you. We're in this good. On the Instagram, Johnny Manziel coming back. Russell the Truth Seeker says, yeah, Johnny football. That's the thing. Some people are going to be very excited about Jonathan Manziel returning to the fan control football. And remember, we had Ray Austin on. So there could be other names coming to. Hey, Cardell Jones playing fan control football, but they're already having camp now. So we would have heard if there was any other big names out there. But Cardell playing fan control football. Why not? Get out there. There was one of the coaches, who is it? Somebody was saying somewhere, and it was maybe it was Ray Austin was talking about it, where it was like players want to play, but then they're just sitting at home, like on social media stuff. Was that him? Was it him that was saying that? And it was so true. Like, these guys want to play in these leagues, but they're not doing anything about it. So you got to get in and grind. And, fan control football is part of it. Could have got Cardell too. But he's waiting for the XFL to call. I don't know if do you think the XFL is going to call Bob Stoops or the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier? I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm not getting a vibe. I think the XFL is going for, guys, that the rumored one for the San Antonio franchise. And I don't think they're going for name guys. And I think that guys like Stoops could be out too. I'm talking about guys like Cardell could be out too. We'll just have to find out. Because the last time we heard from him, he was kind of like, yeah, I would love to play. Give me a call. So we'll see about that. At Njuko, talking about the USFL maybe having a Team 9. That is something that we'll talk about on tomorrow's show. Or on the USFL show after this. He says they are basically copying from the XFL 2020. This is correct. It also says, talking about, so if you didn't hear, Hard Knocks is going to be with the Detroit Lions. And this is something that Mike Mitchell has been talking about a lot, about the XFL wants to have this year-round content. And one of the things would be a TV show, which I think would be huge, of just a show about them bringing the league back to life. I think would be unbelievably huge. And, of course, he says that would be epic. I agree with you there. Also, about MLFB's website update announcing the 4 teams, Ronald Hunk, at Ronald Hunk says, where did you get the games in Florida bit from? So, yes. So, that was posted a long time ago. I think Lakeland, Florida is going to be their hub location where they're playing all their games. So that was from some kind of MLFB thing a while back that they're playing all their games in Lakeland, Florida. That will be their central location. Clearly, they're not going to have these 4 teams playing all over the country with a league that could barely get started. They'll play all the games in Florida. They have 2 coaches. We need 2 more coaches, and then a draft and players to come in. Hey, maybe Cardell will play for MLFB. What do you think about that? On to the emails real quick before we wrap up the show. Let's see here. Jim says, Mark, as always, I love XFL News Hub. Thank you very much. Trying to provide you guys entertainment, trying to find opportunity for writers to succeed and cover the game that they like on this fun for side, making some pizza money, as we call it, hopefully. Once we can kind of get everything established after what's happened, now we've basically had to spin up a CFL site and a USFL site during the season, and where the XFL site had a 2-year run before that league kicked off. So that XFL site is cranking. These other 2 sites, it's just been frustrating, but I want to get these sites up and running and all hitting at maximum velocity so that I could pay my guys more. Because I really want to, not only provide you entertainment, but provide the writers, an opportunity to make money on the side where they could, do fun things with it. So he says, regarding options when going for extra points, how about the old-fashioned drop kick worth 2 points from a certain distance? Might be a little too gimmicky for me, Jim, but probably not. And they've thought about everything when Sam Schwartzstein was there. He said that way the XFL has the option for kicking for extra points, but it has to be a drop kick. I love the current XFL rules for extra points, but adding something unique like a drop kick would be pretty cool, I think. All the best, Jim, Battlehawk Nation. Hopefully the nation returns. Can't wait to watch a football XFL game with my friends in Battlehawk Nation. Can't wait for that. And that's it for this week's show. I don't know if they'll do something like that. It might be a little too gimmicky. But again, with Sam is not part of the USFL. He's not part of the CFL. He's not part of the NFL. Where's he going to land? Like, there's so many storylines when it comes to spring football that are going to be written. We're on the super cusp of it now with the USFL games starting. The XFL is going to have more announcements. This could be a good time to do it in between the Final Four and that game ending. This is, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You could drop it next week. Again, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you have the Masters. But Major League Baseball chat room, do you guys know when that starts? That should be starting pretty soon as well. Oh, really quick, let's go to YouTube. Forgot about that. Let's see. Shark Attack. Very scary name, Shark Attack. Destroyers have been used so many times already. Don't get me wrong. I like the name for San Diego, but I'm sure XFL will still want to start fresh with their own brand. Fleet was so right for San Diego. Shame AAF folded and took it with them. I thought maybe they could get it. For San Diego, I like Riptide as it has a social surfer feel to the city. It also like San Diego Orcas, being SeaWorld is a big thing there. San Diego Megalodons, sounds cool. Also, I kind of rather Hawaii get that name if XFL decides to play a team. Could you imagine The Rock put an XFL team in Hawaii? There's no way. That would be awesome, though. In the future, of course. I just had the craziest thought. How about the San Diego Shark Attacks? I've got a better name for that. Dudley says, I'm going to support the league that's in San Antonio. Cool. I've got the name for San Antonio franchise right here. Hold on. The San Antonio Finns. But it would be a Boston Terrier. Neither they say anything, Pop. You know, my wife calls him Finny Finster, and that's how he knows his name. He was sleeping underneath the thing. There you have it. San Antonio Finns it is. What do you think, Pop? He's like, man, I just want to go back to sleep. San Antonio Finns it is. All right, he's going back to bed. You can catch him, me and Finn, in about 10 minutes on the USFL Weekend Review podcast. How's that? All right, that's it for my friends. Yo, thanks for everybody in the chat room. The Haunted says any football is good. Greg says spring ball. Mad M Freak says, I will say give it about 3 weeks until we see if USFL will be good or not. Also give about 3 weeks until people actually start watching. That's a good point there. Jose said, after the last play, Johnny Football played in the fan control football was not cool. Lost respect for him as a player. I forget what happens that coming to the thing. USFL, XFL coming into an agreement to collab would be the best case scenario, says Mads Mind Freak. I think that's happening years from now, but not anytime soon. All right, my friends, that's it for this week's show. Remember, email podcast at XFL News Hub, your thoughts, record an MP3. Remember, smash that like button as well. You can find our podcast everywhere in the podcasting world. You can download it, plus you can watch us live at 8 p.m. Eastern. XFL Weekend Review. We will have so much more talking on the show coming up on the USFL show. So that is it for me, folks. Thanks for listening. God bless you. Remember Denzel's word. Watch out for the dark one, because the minute he comes, he's coming when things could be going good. And remember that quote. I love that quote. Smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Let's get to 50 likes or you're in trouble. Hopefully we'll get some XFL. Oh, Will Smith the like button, as Dave said. And we will see you all next week, my friends. Check out USFL Weekend Review podcast. Just look up USFL News Hub. We will come on right after this. Thank you, my friends. God bless to all you out there. And I will see you all later.